Off the Leash, we're back. We look fancy. Mark, I know you weren't able to see the Open. I saw it.
I can't wait.
It looks amazing.
Can't wait.
Feels like we're legit. We also have a great close. That's going to be your tease to stay all the way until the end.
I'm sure that's exactly why the folks will be staying.
You don't want to miss it.
No.
It gets the people going. It's electric. All right, week 5 for Off the Leash. Training camp for the Browns officially done.
Thank goodness.
In the books. This was just talking season, right? It's a whole bunch of how do we think these guys are going to look, who's going to be the quarterback. Wow, I'm so glad to put the quote-unquote quarterback competition behind us and be done and move forward with Joe Flacco. Guys get a couple days off, holiday weekend, and then we're moving on to the Bengals, week 1.
Yeah, training camp and then the preseason games, it reminds me of when I covered Major League Baseball. You're so excited for spring training to get there. And then spring training gets there like, oh, this is just baseball practice. When do the games start? And then the games start, you're like, these games stink. They don't even count.
Doesn't matter.
As soon as they get there, you can't wait for the real thing.
No.
It's like, and that's it. We finally got training camp and preseason games. We're like, this actually isn't any fun. When do we get to the real games? We're finally done with the stuff that doesn't matter a whole lot. The games are actually fast approaching and starting with an important game because you are starting in the division against the Bengals, a team, the Browns being a team that Joe Burrow has traditionally, of course, struggled against although he's done better lately. And they've got their whole other group of issues on that. Is the defense fixed, and can they protect Joe, and all those things. And Myles Garrett has feasted against a Joe Burrow-led offense before. Both of these teams have things they want to find out in week 1, and we finally get to talk about it as the next game.
Before we move on to the season, though, we do got to do a little bit of a training camp recap, mainly the 53-man. So any surprises off of there, things we want to talk about? I think the first thing was the Kenny Pickett trade, right, obviously?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it a lot, will they break with 4 and should they break with 4? And I thought, yeah, they probably should because I didn't see a common sense path to getting any of them off the roster. You knew Flacco was the best guy. You're not going to draft the 2 kids and then not keep them, and they're not going to, you're not going to get one of them through to the practice squad. And I think I said maybe on this show even, you can kind of see a path maybe to get Pickett, but they did trade for him. They gave up a 5th. I didn't think they could get a 5th back for him. They did. Okay, that's fine. So I'm fine with it. I was a little surprised that they were able to get essentially what they gave up. I know they gave up DTR and a 5th. DTR has been cut. He's kind of meaningless. Nice kid. But as far as a roster spot, he was meaningless. That's a break-even move for me. Cool.
I think the unfortunate thing about the quote-unquote Kenny Pickett era in Cleveland is that he didn't really get a real chance to compete because of the hamstring injury. I do think Joe Flacco was going to be QB1 all along.
Yes.
A lot of people thought it maybe was going to be Pickett. I felt like it was always going to be Joe, but it is frustrating that we never really got to see him compete. And Kevin Stefanski did have a little something he said a couple days ago about that.
Definitely disappointed for Kenny in that he was out for all that time. Like I told you guys, he performed well prior to that, remained engaged all throughout that. So disappointed for him, but he's somebody that I think very highly of. I think you factor in everything, Scott, truly. You look at it from a bunch of different angles. So certainly we made the decision and feel comfortable with Dylan serving that role.
So you lose Pickett, Bailey Zappi.
Right
back in it.
I don't even know how much of a fallback is that really. I mean, you know what? And like, I don't. You said it, and Coach said it, and I know there were some Pickett backers out there. I don't think it's disappointing that he didn't get to compete. I think we know what he is.
You've never been a Pickett backer. That's one thing
actually, my biggest problem with Kenny Pickett was that he was drafted in the first round, and we were commanded to believe that he was the next Steeler great quarterback. I don't have a problem with him personally. If he'd been a third-round pick, I never would have said a bad word about the guy. It's the fact that, one, he was drafted in the first round because they needed a quarterback, and then the follow-up, this is the Kenny Pickett breakout year when he was going into year 2. It never made any sense to me. For what the Browns got him for, that made sense. You throw a late-round pick, you need a veteran backup. I had no problems with that at all. I just don't believe he was ever actually going to compete with and then beat out Joe Flacco. Ergo, I'm not disappointed that we never got to see him compete. I'm fine with him off the roster for a 5th-round pick. Yeah. He's fine at what he is. He's a backup quarterback.
And Kevin Stefanski did say at practice, too, which doesn't come as a surprise, but Shedeur Sanders, the emergency QB3, so he'll suit up on game days. Yep. Bailey Zappi, practice squad. Yep. Dylan Gabriel, I don't think we talked about it, but obviously he's the backup. Joe Flacco starting, so...
This is worth pointing out. The fact that they were willing to move on from Pickett does say a lot about Dylan Gabriel.
Totally.
Because they had to be sure, and I know this is they're not going to admit this. It's a throwaway year. It's kind of a rebuild-ish year because they don't have their final solution at quarterback. That guy's probably still playing.
Yeah.
But coaches still want to win and players want to win. Coaches aren't in for rebuilds. For this coaching staff to be comfortable enough with Dylan Gabriel to be one play away from their guy does say a lot about what Dylan Gabriel did in the mini camps,
good in the preseason. He looked good in the preseason.
Yeah. And that's a cap tip to him. And he come out and just looked like garbage. I think the coaches would have banged the table a little more to not give up Pickett. But that's credit to Dylan Gabriel.
Well, and it's interesting because it's like you said a couple weeks ago, before Dylan Gabriel's first preseason start. You're like, someone slammed the table for this kid.
Yes.
And was like, this is the guy I want. And I think a lot of people were scratching their heads when the Browns drafted Dylan Gabriel, and they were saying, what the heck are you doing? And there's a lot of comments about his size and what have you. And he didn't look that great in camp. I mean, his throws didn't look that great. He had a lot of interceptions, a lot of batted down balls. But then it's like he gets out there in a game setting. And we even asked him about it, too, like, what switch gets flipped or something? He was like, I don't know. But he looked comfortable. He looked confident. That 2-minute drill that we saw at the Rams game or whatever. I mean, he was confident and he was running this offense.
He made good throws. And, it's preseason. You don't want to make too much of it, but he looked good. Some guys are just better in games than in practice. Yeah. And if all you see of Dylan Gabriel in practice is bad practices, and that is coming off a draft where everyone thought he was overdrafted. Of course, the perception is, what is this? What do we
right.
Shouldn't have been drafted. Now he looks bad out here on the field. Then he puts together some games, and obviously the coaches have a better idea of what he's doing in the meetings and film sessions and things like that. We don't have access to that. So they were pretty confident in him already. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to play out through the preseason. We'll see what it turns into. At some point, he's going to start games for them this year.
Totally. Yeah. Something else that was a surprise on the roster, I don't know, surprise or not, it surprised me, Dustin Hopkins. I was really disappointed about this.
You are a Dustin Hopkins truther.
Yes.
I understand.
Well, it's because, right, we know them as people first before we know them as players, and he's such a great person and has such a great family.
Yep.
And you saw what he was able to do in 23, and you just so badly wish that could have been the case last year. And it wasn't.
I will always remember his kick at the end of the Baltimore game in Baltimore on a win, on a
you
comeback.
You were there, right?
Yes, I was there because I remember that game really well because they were going into a 2-week stretch where they had Baltimore and Pittsburgh back-to-back. And we said on this show, Off the Leash was around back then too, we said if they don't win both of these games, they're completely out of the running for the division. And I'll be dang, they beat the Ravens on a game where they went in there, and I'm rehashing the old stuff a little bit, but they look like they're going to get run out the building. And that was the game. Deshaun Watson actually rallied him in the second half. They needed a big kick out of Dustin Hopkins to win that game, and he gave it to him. They won that game. Of course, then we found out Deshaun was out with the shoulder.
Right.
And then everything came apart anyway. But in that moment, that was as big of a kick as we have seen in a long time. It was as big of a win as we had seen in a long time. And I thought, wow, they got a kicker. Maybe this is the turning point for Deshaun. And then everything just completely fell apart for the season, for Deshaun, for Hopkins.
As it does.
It just came unglued. But this is what happens with that position. If you're Hopkins, you faltered. The kid was just better. Szmyt was just better. And sometimes that's what it takes. It's a fickle position.
The kid's never kicked in an NFL game,
no,
though.
But you know what? That happened here in 1999 when there was a veteran trying to make the team named Danny Kite, and there was a kid that had never kicked in the game before, and his name was Phil Dawson. And
I think I've heard of him before.
Yeah, and the awesome Phil Dawson was just better in camp, and he turned out to be one of the great decisions they made, siding with the kid over the veteran. And maybe they've done that again here.
Yeah, just unfortunate. He's coming off the contract extension as well.
Yeah.
And just couldn't struggled a lot in 24, and then in the preseason couldn't make PATs, That to me says it's a mental thing, because you can make PATs. It's not like he's not good enough to make PATs. Right. He can make it, right? And so, it's frustrating. Andre Szmyt, though, I wish him the best. He was UFL leader in kicks last year, a guy out of Syracuse. We did get to talk a little bit about him and what it meant to him to not only make the 53, but the relationship he has with Dustin as well.
It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's also exciting at the same time. You don't know what the future has. And you put all your work in, and then whatever happens, it happens. So he meant a lot to me, and he's like one of the best guys like I've ever met. And we briefly caught each other in the locker room, and we said some nice words to each other. And I'm always going to be rooting for him, and I know he'll be doing the same for me. So I have nothing but love for him and respect.
Okay, so have the Browns found their answer at kicker?
For now.
We will see.
We'll see.
Maybe there's a scenario in which we bring Dustin back,
It's possible. Look, they haven't really had a real stable guy that since Phil. We've had guys kind of come and go, and there's been.
I remember the Cade York era. That was right when I was coming in here.
There have been multiple times you thought, okay, the Browns have found their guy at kicker, and it obviously hasn't worked out. This is the next time people are wondering if they found their next guy at kicker.
One of the coolest stories out of training camp, I think, has got to be Aiden Huntington, one of the guys to make the 53. Went undrafted out of Tulane. This kid has come in and wowed everybody at camp, and he got a roster spot. Those are always like the coolest stories. And they have, Browns have a lot of young guys and rookies to begin with, but I just love the stories of the undrafted kids that come in and prove themselves and get a roster spot. I was hoping Luke Floria. That was the other guy that I was hoping was going to have a story like that. Obviously,
both with Kent State
injury.
ties.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So those were a couple guys that they were kind of the underdog story throughout training camp. And obviously, thankfully, Huntington stayed healthy. We'll see what happens with Floria, but such a good story.
Everybody loves an underdog. Everybody loves the undrafted guy that's going to come in and scrap and do whatever it takes, because those are the guys you never hear them complain. They never, and I'm not saying every young kid complains, but those are the kids that are certainly just so happy to be there. Weren't sure if they were ever going to get there. You look at his path. 3 years at Kent State, a year at Louisiana Monroe, which has one of the great names in college football for me, the Warhawks. I love that nickname. And then Tulane. None of those are football factories. Tulane has probably put the most guys in the NFL of that whole Kent State's got some guys in the pros, of course, but there's nobody, there's no power four there.
Right, of course.
Right? He took the long road, and then he did it the hard way, but he's on the 53. At the end of the day, he's got a place at the table. Now he's got to hold it. Right? Sometimes there's guys that do that, and then by week 3 or 4, they need a roster spot, and he hadn't played well, and then he's gone. But for right now, place at the table for the young man. Let's see what he does with it.
I think it bodes well for him, too. He had said a couple days ago that Myles Garrett had offered the invitation to train with him this past offseason, and when a guy like that does, you take him up on it. So obviously I think that's helped him out. We got to talk to him a couple days ago, and then we spoke with Browns assistant GM Glenn Cook, and he had some great things to say just about what they had seen from him early on scouting him. But you never truly know what it's going to be until they put pads on it or a full go, and here's what they had to say.
It's a blessing, when God's able to work through you and work through other people, and he does the unnatural. He does things that ain't familiar and that haven't been done before. So it's just a blessing, like I said, just to hear that announcement, but just had the opportunity to have those snaps, had the opportunity to go run down there on kickoff, to start the game at fullback, and then make the plays I made at defense. It just was a blessing. I think a big thing for me is just playing with a relentless effort. That's what stands out. I'm 290 pounds. I ran a 4.6, but just the ability to showcase that, I just can't do that one play. I got to do that every play. So my process into that is making sure I'm conditioned, making sure that I'm getting on the assault bike. I'm doing my rounds on the assault bike. So in those moments where I have to run down there on punt and then I have to play the defensive drive, I had that win so I could so there's no drop off and I can stay fresh and play my game.
It's him, right? Like, I think he embodies what we talk about when we talk about toughness, competitiveness. Our scouts from back in January were excited about him. It's one of those things where he played in a defense where he played on the edge. We talk about wanting to get off the ball, launch and be aggressive, play in the backfield. And, our scouts were really pushing like, hey, we think he can do it. We never know, right? And then you go through the combine process, he tests on his pro day, blows it out of the water, and you just continue to get these data points that, man, this kid may have something in his body. But again, we don't know. He shows up, we don't get him pads until August, and every day he just put it on the field, right? Like you got to take the eye in the sky at some point and trust what you see in the guy. And it's been, you're happy for him, right? Because, there's a lot of disappointment in not getting drafted. But for him to still be able to earn a spot and do it in the fashion that he did, I think was awesome.
Hey, by the way, Off the Leash, glad you're here. Glad you're joining us. Subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Huge thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Standout rookie training camp, no question, Carson Schwessinger. The kid has come in. He's had some big shoes to fill.
Totally.
JOK being out for the entire season. Then you have Jordan Hicks retiring. And so this kid, he got the green dot, right? And he's had to step up and now kind of be in a leadership position just as a rookie.
I remember when they drafted him. We were there that night. And
I remember we were like, how do you say this last name?
I still, I think it was first, second episode. It was a journey for me. Carson Schwessinger at the time. We didn't know JOK was out yet for the year. The Browns might have, but that wasn't out. And then Hicks certainly was still in the fold. And I remember thinking, people might not think that's a need, but that's kind of a need. And boy, it went from kind of a need to a big need in a hurry. And then you got to hope you hit on the draft pick. We don't know for sure, but he's off to a great start. It was considered, I don't want to say a 2 linebacker, but the way I had heard the draft is if you want a linebacker, get one kind of early. I don't remember who the first kid was off the top of my head, but Schwessinger was the next guy. Like, get that one, and then there's a drop-off. And so the Browns made a bid early. Let's get him. And, because remember, we were talking, are they going to get a quarterback then? Do they get receiver? No, they went linebacker, and they needed it. And, boy, he's been good so far. You hope he is the next really good linebacker for this team. And I've got to love the hair. Anyone who watched Remember the Titans, one of my top 2-3 sports movies of all times, despite some historical inaccuracies, you cannot look at Carson Schwessinger and not think of sunshine.
No, it's true. 100%.
Straight from California and everything. Right. He is Ronnie Bass.
Well, Jim Schwartz, when we first talked to him after the draft, said that he needs to cut his hair. He was like, this kid needs to get
just like Ronnie Bass.
He was like, this kid needs it. But, if the kid can ball, he can leave his hair. But such a cool story, too. You have a guy that was a walk-on at UCLA. He only started for 1 season there. And the fact that he was able to improve his draft stock to what he did and then now step into a role here. And he's such like a level-headed guy. When we talked to him, he was like, no, it doesn't feel like more or added responsibility, and I'm just trying to focus on my part and do my part. And it's like, okay, yeah, like you're being modest, but this is a really big deal. Granted, I get that because you haven't done anything yet, so you kind of have to be modest. You can't be like, yeah, I'm ready for a bigger responsibility and to be a leader and stuff. But he has really wowed people. I don't know if I mentioned, but he won the Maurice Bassett Award, which is voted on by the media as the most outstanding rookie. And it was funny, he walked up to the podium, and one of the writers was like, man, congratulations. And he was like, thanks. And then he turned and was like, for what? What happened? What did I do? And then one of the Browns communication staff members was like, the award I told you about, I just told you about it. And he was like, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah,
that's
thanks.
funny.
And it was funny. Jerome Baker spoke today. And he loves this kid. He was one of the things that he says in this. He was like, if you're a football guy and you just like talking shop, like, you're going to love this kid.
I think really in every aspect, whether it's the off the field, just understanding our defense, offenses now, and or on the field, certain techniques, block shedding, anything like that. I think through just reps and what we do in the meeting rooms, and also with Coach Tarver on the field, I think I've really grown in every aspect.
Yeah, I always talk about Carson to anybody that loves football. He's the perfect guy for you. I mean, just sit down with him and just talk ball. He understands it. He can speak on it. It's like he's a rookie, but his mind is definitely way beyond his years. So it's just a testament to where he came up, how he's been doing his job. Just his story alone, just talk about college is pretty unique. And for me, I really just get to know him. Just sitting down with him, just talking with him. He's a cool kid. He's definitely got some interesting hobbies. So if you ever get a chance, just talk to him. you would quickly pick up that he's not just your average rookie. So he's going to definitely have a great year, great career.
Okay, so what he mentioned there was that Carson has some interesting hobbies if you have a chance to talk to him. I know he juggles. I don't know what else his other interesting hobbies are. I think he's a big Harry Potter fan. I don't know what else, but if you're looking to talk to him about something besides football.
Hobbies.
I tried to juggle at one point. Tried to teach myself as a kid. It didn't go so well.
It didn't work out.
I did pogo stick, though, as a kid. I loved that.
Nerd alert.
That's not nerd.
Nah. It's, you could have, what do they call those guys at the Cavs games? The Pogaliers? I don't remember.
Yeah, but they do like backflips.
Yeah, they do.
I think the most advanced I got is I could pogo stick without my hands. And that is pretty advanced.
How do you keep it? How do you stay on the thing?
You just balance. It's like you're jumping. You just jump up and down. You stay bound. Yeah. You're pretty impressive.
I'm moderately impressed.
Thank you. Just moderately.
Just
please.
moderately.
Okay.
I don't want it to go to your head.
There was something else that Jerome Baker said today, too, at practice, and it surprised me.
Kind of a funny story. I was just talking to Bush, and I knew about the Browns because of, I'm from here, but I didn't get a chance to watch them because of time. And I'm talking to him, and he was like, yeah, we only won 3 games last year. I'm like, no way. Like, this defense, this is a great defense. So really just the time I've been here, the main focus is about just winning games this year, just turning things around. And for me, just the work we put in, you can tell that that's the mission, just to win more games and do a better job on defense and really just lock in. So just a credit to this organization.
All right, hometown kid.
Yep.
Does it surprise you he didn't know the Browns only won 3 games last year?
A little bit. I mean, every player doesn't know every other team's record.
This is his hometown team.
Yeah,
now.
I know. Because what happens, I mean, this happened to us, I think, covering the team. They're bad. The losses start to pile up. And at some point, you're like, wait, have they won 3 or have they won 4? I don't remember. Like, I'm sure he didn't think they were a 9-win franchise. And is there much of a difference between if he thought they won 4 or 5 or won 3?
See, but I don't think he would be surprised, though, if he had thought, like, he seemed genuinely surprised. He was like, I had no idea we only had 3 wins last year. That was it. So if you're thinking in your mind the Browns maybe only had 4 or 5, I don't think 3 comes across that shock. I should have asked. I should have been like, how many did you think they had?
Yeah, right. There's the follow-up.
Yeah.
That is funny. But, okay, well, I guess he didn't look at that before he signed here.
Well, Sue, and that's what's interesting, too, is do you think that's kind of common for players when they sign with a new team is like, let me get the lay of the land and kind of see how they did last year? Who were some of the
Some do, some don't. Some don't.
Yeah.
Some are just straight about the money.
Yeah.
Team X is paying this much. Team Y is paying that much. Give me the most. They don't care. They'll have a general sense if a team's good or bad because everyone knows kind of who's good, who's bad. But I don't think it's that crazy that a guy didn't know exactly how many wins a team had before he signed here.
I think it's crazy because it's his hometown team.
That is a little more on you. But also maybe then it's just blind allegiance to the city of Cleveland.
Which
he didn't care.
Is kind of the case. Is kind of the case here. But I don't know. I feel like I would kind of Google like, okay, what was this team's record last year and how did they do? But also, granted, if a station was offering me, I don't know, however many
you looking at the ratings?
Millions, I'd be like, okay.
You're not looking at the ratings. He's looking at the head coach, the assistants, and guys that have played here and that kind of thing. Just as if you were looking for a TV job, you're looking at who's the news director. Do I know anyone there? Do I know anyone that knows anyone there? That's the kind of stuff.
Right. To make it clear, I'm very happy here with our news director, Brian Sinclair. He's amazing.
Sinclair is awesome.
Anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of how the 53 shook out? Anything leading up to week 1? You got any exciting Labor Day plans? Any and all.
I'll be laboring. I'm here.
That's what you're supposed to do. Thunderbirds are in town. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Who's here?
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds.
Yeah,
I know,
that's
cool.
always fun. Their show.
So the only thing, they were moderates, nothing huge. I think Hopkins was newsy.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised Pierre Strong got cut.
It's not a lot of injuries.
They only have 2 running backs. I know he's been banged up, but it's more of a Judkins thing. It feels like it's got to be.
Well, they just
close.
brought in who was it? Rocket. That's his nickname. I was cutting some video of him today.
And that's the other thing.
They've brought in a couple running backs. Yeah.
And the only other thing, and this was I wasn't huge surprised, but it was noteworthy. Deontay Johnson, who's now been through like 5 teams in like 15 months or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just I just don't think he's good at football anymore. He flashed with the Steelers there in his rookie year and maybe a second year, but as bad as the Browns receiver room is, and it might be the worst in football, and he couldn't make this one.
What does that say?
Yeah.
It's Raheem Sanders. He was out at practice today. That was the first time we got to see him. New running back. Other thing, I can't believe I almost forgot this.
Hold on.
We have the unveiling of the Browns team captains, courtesy of one Kevin Stefanski.
Good job in the meeting rooms, good job in the weight room, good job out here. So got a lot of work done this week, which was key. Captains this year, as voted by the players. On offense, Joel Bitonio, Joe Flacco. On defense, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and special teams, Corey Bojorquez. So great honor for those guys. It always means something when your peers, when your teammates make those selections.
I think no surprise there. Joel Bitonio, Flacco, Garrett, Denzel, Corey Bojorquez.
What you'd expect.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool that Flacco got it, even though we're talking about him as a guy that is probably not starting all year here. I do think it's a very appropriate choice as team captain, even though he might only start like 5 games.
He is someone that just everyone in the locker room gravitates around him. I remember when he came in 2023, like you could just feel the mood in the locker room change when he came in. Like guys were smiling when they were doing their press conferences that normally didn't smile. People were talking about, they were talking about him as a player, but I really noticed how much everyone talked about him as a person. That was the first thing they said about him is, we get on FaceTime with Flacco and his kids and he's such a great dad and he did XYZ, and like we hadn't heard a lot of that. And so that was really encouraging to hear. I think guys were like genuinely excited when he was coming back, even though you probably you know that he's not your answer at quarterback. You still know the consistency, stability, confidence that you have when it comes to Joe Flacco, and that's more than Cleveland had.
He knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And they have not had many guys at that position over the years that know what they are doing. You can't fool players, right? They can run guys in and out and put them in front of us, and we can talk about, is this the next guy? The players know. That dude doesn't have it. That guy doesn't have it. That guy doesn't work hard. And then Joe Flacco, who's got skins on the wall and a Super Bowl ring and a lot of years in the league, and he's just going to command the respect of guys. And there's going to be an exhale of, okay, he knows what he's doing, right? He's not Pat Mahomes or Joe Burrow, but this dude, he knows what he's doing, and there is a release there from the other veterans. That's a calming presence to have at clearly the most important position.
Yep. Any final thoughts from this offseason? Give me 3 words to describe offseason training camp. You can go 4 or something, but how would you sum it all up?
Sum it all up, or the 4 words? I could throw you 4 words that out there that aren't summing it all up.
You choose whatever you want to do.
Wanted more Mason Graham. We didn't hear much about him, did we?
No.
We're talking about Schlesinger, right? We're talking about some other guys. First-round pick, a bit of a controversial selection because of the trade back with Hunter. Not saying he's bad, not saying he's a bust, but has there been a lot of, oh, wow, look at that guy?
Right. Well, and I think, too, especially in the preseason games, I don't know what percentage of snaps that he played in the preseason. But, I don't remember there being any.
There wasn't a wow moment.
Right.
Now,
right.
I'm not saying it's not going to come. I'm not saying that's why I'm saying I would have liked to see that.
Yeah.
Because, of course, you want to see moments where, that's what they had. And things are kind of vanilla in the preseason, I understand. And he's not playing every game, and he's not playing every snap.
Right.
So, not saying that's not going to come. But, of course, you wanted to see a little bit of an instant payoff there where you're like, okay, they got a dude.
Yeah. We'll see what's to come. Any final thoughts, Schwab?
No, let's go. Let's go. Week 1. Let's get it here.
Next time we're here, we're going to be actually talking about a game, not just talking about here's how people looked at practice. I'm so excited.
I know.
It's
about time.
Be great. All right. For Mark Schwab, I'm Leah Doherty. That does it for Off the Leash. We'll see you come game week.